Welcome to the Solid Verbal. And now, Dan and Ty.
Dan Rubenstein, welcome back. Happy 11-11, my friend. How are you?
I'm good. I want to say that's a lyric in Something Corporate's Constantine, the saddest and most emotional song of Dan Rubenstein's, 18th, 19th year on this beautiful planet. I didn't plan on starting the show talking about that, but here we are. Ty, I'm great. It's post week 11, heading into week 12. I know you're like itching to talk Delaware football and their crazy ending from Saturday. I turned on what else did we have late Saturday, by the way? Nebraska UCLA was going on. I have a couple thoughts about that. So I love this like zone where people I speak with say like, oh, what are the narratives going on? What were your reactions? And then looking ahead to the following week and having this Monday, Tuesday show to do so. I don't know where I want to start, but this is all a roundabout way of me saying, I'm good. Thanks for having me back.
Well, it is a pleasure to have you back as well. Happy Veterans Day to all out there who serve. We appreciate you. Thank you for tuning in with us. Hit follow, hit subscribe if you have yet to do so. Not just so that you can listen to this episode, but so that you can be with us the remainder of the season, because things are just starting to heat up as we get into Tyvember here, as we like to call it on the show.
Do we like that?
As I like to call it here on the show.
Yeah.
Excuse me. This is when things tend to break. This is when we tend to have weird tiebreaker discussions. We'll have Heisman discussions. We'll have playoff discussions. A lot remains to be seen here in the 2025 college football season. So hit follow, hit subscribe so you don't miss any of that. Of course, forballers.com is where you can go if you want to get this episode, all of our episodes without the ads. We also do bonus content every Thursday. We have a Discord server that pops off during all the games. You can vote in the polls. A whole slew of things available to you if you are a super verballer. Go to verballers.com. If nothing more, you help Dan and I keep the lights on.
What about Govember, it's Diego Pavia's time? No? That's better than Diego Zempic. I have to say, Govember, it's Diego's time. No?
I don't hate that.
Okay.
I didn't like the Zempic one. I just didn't think that
too
was
much.
her finest work. It was a little too much.
Diego Zempic, taking shots to help them lose. Something like that. It was a lot. It was fraught with too many words and letters. Are we starting with lingering thoughts? Where are we going?
Well, we can start with lingering thoughts. So over the course of the next hour or so, we have some questions for one another about football. Maybe not about football. Maybe about life. I don't know.
Okay.
But about football.
Sure.
We're at least going to start there. Going to talk about those. We're also going to go into two of our early bird previews, as we do every Tuesday. We're going to do some under-the-radar games a little bit early this week because I wanted to make sure that people had them on their radars. I find them incredibly interesting.
Yes.
I want to talk through a few of those before we hightail it out of here. And, of course, we'll give you a brief rundown of some of the other interesting games, many of which we will preview on the Thursday episode. But, yes, before we do that and before we reveal the latest Verballer Top 12 poll, lingering thoughts, Dan. Lingering thoughts from the week that was in week 11.
It was a harrowing experience because I had the Nebraska UCLA game on mute sort of as we were going in to record the week 11 recap episode, watched it full volume only to be met by Tim Brando. Immediately like, ah! like a Street Fighter 2 character in slow motion being uppercut, falling his or her way to the turf. Ah! So that wasn't great. So, okay, my thought on that game specifically was really good job by Nebraska because that was a trappy spot after having a big game, losing your quarterback, having UCLA team that has taken down teams in vulnerable positions. Nebraska was able to efficiently score in that first half on some big plays. TJ Lateef had, I think, a very smart game plan, knowing that he was not going to be able to go through a ton of progressions at such a young age on the road in a tough spot. And a lot of crossers and one read looks. And I just thought it was very smart. And I thought Emmett Johnson was very good as well. UCLA fought. They made nice adjustments in the second half, but it wasn't meant to be. And that was a good, mature win for Nebraska. They protected TJ Lateef.
A professional effort, as we say.
Yeah, it wasn't pretty. The second half offense, there wasn't much there. But I thought that's a good workmanlike win for the Huskers. So that was cool to see, especially with the down news, obviously, of Dylan Raiola and his injury. I want to correct myself, unless you have any other lingering Nebraska.
No, go ahead,
UCLA thoughts.
please continue.
On a couple of items. I think I undershot Bear Bachmeier's weight by, according to BYU fans, 80 to 90 pounds.
Listen, I didn't want to be the bearer of bad news for you on Saturday night.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
What people don't realize, or maybe they do, when you and I are doing these streams and it's like 1 a.m. Eastern time.
Yeah.
We've been watching games all day. Boo-hoo, poor us.
Yeah.
I know. But when you've got the camera and the microphone rolling and you're doing something live, all too often we have brain farts where our mouths get out a little bit ahead of our brains. It's not uncommon. It's going to happen 7 times to me before this episode is through. I guarantee it.
I fully disagree with you on this. Continue, though.
But
I stand by that Bear Bachmeier is 5'11", 185. I refuse to believe his listed weight and listed height. Every other YouTube commenter about that game was like, hey, I know you said like once Bear Bachmeier fills out, he will be like more of a weapon, but my guy, he's 235. And then like the next person, he's 250. He's a legit, somebody said he's a legit pushing 260. And I was like, am I just being messed with right now? Are people just coming at me knowing that I am of frail mind? I understand that he has to be at least 225 pounds at this point, okay? But when I watch him underneath the pads, because he also looks like the 5th most famous person that was in Camp Nowhere, I refuse to believe that he is any older than 15, that he is any taller than 5'11 and a half, and weighs any more than 163 pounds. And I also, the rational part of my brain understands that he's likely 6'1", 235. Right. But I see him against the monsters on the Texas Tech defensive line or the Utah defensive line, the latter of which he beat. And I think to myself, he is an up-and-coming high school sophomore, okay? And I'm sorry, I can't get away from it, and I apologize. The rational part of my brain says, yes, of course you were wrong. You screwed that one up. But also, did it? Did my brain screw that up? I don't know.
I didn't want to be a jerk on Saturday night.
No, you handled yourself well.
And I think I pushed back gently because I didn't have the exact height and weight in front of me. I knew just from, looking at enough Bear Bachmeier stats and watching enough of his play this year that you were a bit off, but I was not even confident enough in my own retelling of Bear Bachmeier's stats to push back too hard because I didn't know for sure. But I knew he was over 200, at least listed as such. So, okay.
Literally, the BYU fans were like acting as if he were the Pillsbury throw boy. Acting as if who was it, Jeremy Gibbs? Who was the Ole Miss guy who would come in specialty situations? The large high school quarterback who was also like a defensive tackle. I forget his name. So, okay, hand up, my fault on that one. Also, okay, more straightforward apology-wise, and it's just, this is both of us. In talking about Matt Zollers, nobody even corrected me on this. I just saw it after the fact, the reference. He's the 3rd-string Mizzou quarterback, right?
Well, he was a 3rd-string Mizzou quarterback.
What I'm saying is, like, on that roster, fall camp-wise, obviously until Sam Horn got hurt, I just thought I could have extended more grace. We could have extended more grace. But like, this is the 3rd-best quarterback on this roster, all things being equal. And he wasn't able to get it done, certainly against A&M, and I don't think Bo Prabula would have been able to. I don't think Sam Horn would have been able to. But I thought we should have provided more context to that one as well. I don't know if you have any thoughts.
Listen, I think that's totally fair. I also think that, and you're right, I mean, look, your first game as a starter against Texas A&M is not exactly the easiest ask, right? So, but that being said, I thought at least in limited action in spots, he's proven that he's capable. Mm-hmm. It's just going to take some seasoning to get there. He was still a 4-star, but he's just a true freshman. So it's going to take a minute. Again, you're going up against the best of the best in the SEC. So extending some grace to him. Originally started out the year as a 3rd-string quarterback. By the way, this was sort of the main point of pessimism when it came to Mizzou after Sam Horn got hurt. It immediately shifted to a question of quarterback depth because of how Bo Prabula at least tended to play up at Penn State, likes to use his legs, definitely more of a dual threat guy, put him on the run, that type of stuff. If Bo goes down, what happens then behind him? We see what happens now.
Totally.
Zollers gets the nod. Doesn't mean that he won't be good moving forward, but just wasn't ready for this moment, as you might expect.
I sort of opened the show talking about Delaware in a sort of joking way, but kind of not joking. I don't know if you saw the end of that game.
I saw the end of the game.
So it's 2 touchdowns in under a minute for Delaware. I think it's they punch it in, and then they get a pick 6, immediately give up a touchdown, and then execute maybe the onside kick of the year? Like perfect bounce up, and I think that sets up a game-winning field goal. Delaware in their first, I believe this is their first FBS season, was right there with, I want to say, Western Kentucky. They were competitive with Jacksonville State. Really impressive, like under the radar. I know that's a segment we're going to sort of look at in a little bit, but under the radar season so far for Delaware, because that transition can be very tough. Obviously, they've had a good amount of success as an FCS program, but a really cool under the radar season long thing going on for the Blue Hens. Yes?
Go Blue Hens. Yep. My first visit.
Your official
my first
visit
as a high school senior when I was looking at colleges was the University of Delaware.
Yes. So I just wanted to highlight that because it's been a cool story.
All right. Well, listen, if you've got anything out there that you'd like to add, you can always email us, solidverbal@gmail.com, or reach out on social media. I just kept thinking about if you're a Nebraska fan and you just had Dylan Raiola go down, you had to deal with weeks on end of Matt Rule rumors. Obviously, you lose a big game in a big spot. Like, you've had so many little daggers that you've had to contend with. Is it not insult to injury to turn it on late and then realize, oh man, we got a Brando game?
Oh, the absolute
the universe
dregs.
is turning against Nebraska people.
Yes, I don't know if I could have handled Gary Danielson and Tim Brando back to back. I don't know if like the Danielson Brando syndrome would have been curable in that moment.
DBS.
Yeah. The other thing, by the way, I should mention. One of those stranger seasons that we should spend just like 30 seconds to 90 seconds on right now. Kentucky football.
Oh, my God. Well, we joked about zombie Kentucky on the last episode.
So Kentucky nearly beats a top 10 team in Texas, destroys a Florida team to the point where, and look, it's a lame duck Florida program with Billy Napier being fired, but having their like superstar potential quarterback benched after, was it 3 first half interceptions? Only to replace him with a true freshman. Getting Hugh Freeze fired 2 weeks ago in scoring 1 touchdown against Auburn is like, oh, that's plenty. That's plenty to get Hugh Freeze fired. Actually scoring a bunch against Tennessee, but they gave up way too many points in that game. Kind of finding an exciting quarterback, all things considered, with Kentucky's quarterback history of the past 10, 15 years and a young quarterback in Cutter Boley. Forget all the noise around Florida, and it's always good if you're a Kentucky fan to beat Florida. They smashed them. And so
they did 38-7.
And this was also a program that like was in position to beat maybe, or not, I don't know, beat, but like competed with Ole Miss early on, had a down couple weeks mid-season, but after the bye have been like a totally new team. And this is all within the context of also paying a quarterback in Zach Calzada, who has made TikTok videos taunting people with $100 bills and benching that dude, moving on and becoming better. Like it's kind of a narrative out of nowhere. And so I just wanted to like flowers, whatever for Kentucky, I think are in order.
Here's the other aspect of the Kentucky season that, as he said, maybe flying a bit under the radar and it's been kind of weird. And
I just watched that game more closely this morning and I felt some things.
They've got Tennessee Tech this week, who they should beat handily.
Yeah.
But their final 2 games, both of which are on the road, at Vandy, at Louisville. In both instances, they are projected to be the underdog. Yeah. But they have been playing better, as you said, since the bye week. And I think on both fronts, if you knock off Vandy, that's got SEC implications, maybe playoff implications, depending on how this week goes for Vandy. They've got Louisville to close out the season. Louisville right now, 7-2. Louisville, who knows what the season brings the rest of the way. it would take, I think, an act of God to put them in the ACC title game at this point for a lot to go wrong. I'm not even sure it's mathematically possible, but those are two games that to me feel winnable, even though they're probably going to be projected underdogs. Both are on the road, but given the fact they're playing better, two games that have like ripple effects if they were to pull an upset.
Agree.
That's all.
Yeah. The other thing, by the way, and again, we spent a little bit of time on this. The insanity that is Duke football showing nothing in the non-conference portion of their schedule, losing to UConn, Tulane, and Illinois, each of which in like pseudo-embarrassing fashion, all things considered, context of their opponents, and in the absolute driver's seat to go to the ACC championship game.
It's unbelievable.
Like we should honor that they've had kind of a horrendous defense this year, kind of horrendous turnover situations in some of those non-conference games, and Darian Mensah against ACC teams is one of the best quarterbacks in the country.
Yeah, I checked earlier today for whatever you make of PFF grades. I know it's kind of a controversial thing, but behind Julian Sayin, Mensah is number 2 nationally.
In terms of PFF.
Per PFF,
yeah.
And a passer grade, yeah. Based on like, some version of how many dropbacks you have. I sort of filtered it down so you don't have the backups in there. But yeah, he's having a good year. He's a playmaker. I guess they're getting their money's worth. And certainly if they go on to win the ACC and go to the playoff, it will all have been worth it. But it's definitely been a bit of a lumpy season for the Duke Blue Devils. I'm giggling, by the way, like a schoolboy over here at these things that you're bringing up. How can you not love college football?
Oh, I know.
How can you not love this? This is all just pure insanity. This is why we do this. This is why we're still doing this show. Because of stuff like this.
Duke has arguably one of the worst pass defenses of any Power 4 conference team. And yet could get, I don't know what like the likeliest, I don't know the projections or anything like that, but are in at least a decent enough position to get a rematch with Georgia Tech as a current, if I'm reading this correctly, 4-loss team to go to the college football playoff and potentially have a Power 4 conference team not get a bye.
They've got a big game this week, which we're not going to preview on this episode, but we will on Thursday against Virginia.
Who lost their quarterback last week.
Who lost its quarterback last week. That's right. That game is at home. They've also got their rivalry game against North Carolina.
Yep, who did beat Stanford.
In week 13. And then they close out the year at home against a very pesky Wake Forest. If they were to go through and win all 3 of those games, based on tiebreaker scenarios, I believe they would have a leg up on SMU and they would end up playing Georgia Tech in the ACC title game, as you said. Obviously, if they lose this week, things change. Clearly, there are other scenarios around college football, around the ACC, that could alter what this landscape looks like a little bit. But if you are a Duke fan, if you are looking at your remaining schedule,
unbelievable,
this week, next week, the week after, those look like, to me, 3 winnable games. And if you can get the job done, there's a pretty good shot you're playing for that ACC title.
And taking out a 10-2 playoff deserving team in the process, an at-large 10-2 team. I think that's how the math will end up working out.
That's how this would work. And right now, by the way, regardless of who wins,
likely an ACC team, right? That's going to eliminate. There's a good chance it's eliminating an at-large berth for an ACC team. Yeah,
there's I would say a very likely chance that, like last year when we saw it with Clemson, the ACC victor is going to end up knocking out one of those top 12 teams in the final CFP poll.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, the ACC last year obviously still got 2 teams in with SMU. But yes, that does throw that wrinkle. Clemson was outside of the top 12 winning the ACC. So yeah that.
And by the way, it's probably going to be 2 teams that get the boot, because remember, Boise State was ranked pretty high last year.
That's true.
Boise State was the 3 seed. They got a first round bye. But as it stands right now, whoever emerges on the G6 level, maybe you're a USF guy, maybe you're a North Texas guy, maybe you got somebody else, maybe you're a James Madison guy, I don't know. Whatever flavor of G6 you're into, that team, I would say almost definitively at this point, is going to knock somebody else out. So if you are looking at these rankings when they come out every Tuesday night, I would definitely start thinking of it in terms of if my team is up there, if my team is ranked in the top 10, that's good. If I'm number 11, if I'm number 12, that is not
danger.
If I'm number 11, if I'm number 12, I need teams in front of me to lose, or I need to find a way to win my conference. Otherwise, you're sort of on a knife's edge, and I think there's a pretty strong probability, whatever, that you're going to get knocked out by one of these lower ranked conference champions.
By the way, the possibility is Praz, of course, from the Fugees, doing his own projections on the college football playoff. Here's my other, this is an easy transition for you. I don't remember the exact year it was, but there was a postseason conversation where Pitt was squarely the affecting team. Like Pitt had played like 4 or 5 different teams, and how they fared against Pitt was an actual thing that people were using for or against a cause. I don't know if it was the year that Pitt beat, I remember just like the Jason Kirk put Pitt in. I don't know, it was 2015 or 16 when James Conner ran all over Clemson, whatever it was, that Pitt was affecting the race. Pitt has an opportunity this season, and this is easy transition to rankings or preview talk, whatever. Yeah. There's like this weird ongoing Miami-Notre Dame conversation where Miami fans are like, I'm sorry, we have the same number of losses and we beat this team. Why are we ranked behind them? And obviously who Miami has lost to has affected their ranking. But Pitt now has the opportunity, finishing their season against both of these teams, to be a measuring stick in a potential at-large conversation that involves both Miami and Notre Dame. And I'm happy for the retro vibes of Pitt affecting this playoff race in a very serious way.
Yeah, the other thing that I should add while we're talking through ACC possibilities.
Yes,
okay,
of course.
And this is why I don't want to commit to anything in the ACC, because it's not ironclad, by the way, that if Duke wins out, they're going to find their way into this title thing. There's a lot that could still happen, okay? And Pitt is one of those. So Pitt has Georgia Tech next week. Pitt has Miami to close out its season. The Georgia Tech game is on the road. The Miami game is at home. If Pitt were to knock off both of those teams, Pitt would find its way into the ACC title game.
Oh, yeah. Pitt's in a really nice place.
The preseason prophecy from yours truly would come true. And Pitt would find its way into that game, though not against Clemson, as I thought initially. But in all likelihood, it would be Pitt against Georgia Tech. So there's still a lot that could go on in the ACC. I don't mean to give the impression that it's ironclad, Duke winning out, they're going to be in this thing. But I would say right now, Pitt is likely the underdog in those games, both against Georgia Tech and Miami, which is why I'm not quite taking that to the bank. But just bear in mind, there's a lot that could still go on here that could put a bunch of teams into that ACC title game.
Good for us with our preseason ACC crushes, mine with Duke and yours with Pitt. Thus far, we couldn't anticipate exactly that this was going to be a Mason Heinschel year and Duke loses in embarrassing fashion to Tulane and Illinois and UConn, but is still very much alive in a couple weeks before Thanksgiving. Quick fact check here, because when I make a pop culture reference without knowing anything about this person in pop culture, obviously I'm a big Fugees person, obviously. Praz was recently found guilty of 10 criminal counts in the U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia. He is facing up to 20 years in prison, but is currently free on bond pending appeals. And this is all involving the One Malaysia Development Berhad scandal in trying to back-channel extradition of Chinese nationals. So I do see the full picture of Praz via a very cursory search on Wikipedia. I just want people to know that I'm not blindly going into it now. Okay, that's all. Where are we going from here?
Well, we're now extortion adjacent or whatever on this show. Welcome back, one and all.
Yeah.
Let's reveal the responses. Let's reveal the results.
Oh,
that's the word I'm looking for. Of the Verballer Top 12. It doesn't look all that different from the latest AP and coaches polls that are out there. Of course, we're recording this midday Monday before the CFP rankings. This is part of why we're not going to talk through, at least to the same extent, the polls the way we would normally. We'll save a little bit of that for the Thursday episode when we have brackets to respond to and we have actual, committee rankings and results to respond to. But here's what it looks like in our world. Ohio State, Indiana still 1-2. Texas A&M and Alabama still 3-4. We've got Georgia at 5. We've got Texas Tech moving up to number 6. We've got Ole Miss at 7, Oregon at 8, Notre Dame at 9. And then to round out the top 12, we've got Texas, Georgia Tech, and Oklahoma. BYU fell pretty far. They're down at 13. Vanderbilt knocking on the door at 14. And then we've got Utah at 15 and USC at number 16, in case you're interested in the first 4 out, Dan.
Yes.
We don't need to respond, I think, for like 15 minutes about this, but I think we should give at least some initial reaction to what the Verballerhood is telling us here. What I am getting from this, people felt pretty good about what they saw from Texas Tech, yeah?
I think so. 6. I think deservedly so, yeah. They beat a 355-pound quarterback into submission, yeah.
He's getting bigger by the second, like Tommy Castellanos did last year.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
He's like a kid from Willy Wonka getting blown up. Violet Beauregard, is that who got big?
I don't know.
Okay. Come on, Ty.
I don't know.
Isn't she turning violet and huge? Yeah. Continue.
Notre Dame all the way up to 9 now in this poll, just a slow and steady creep. I know you've got a question about schedules. Well, I don't want to give away the game too much.
No,
we'll
that's
talk
fine.
About this in a little bit, but Notre Dame up at 9. Texas now creeping into the top 10 in advance of their big game this week, which we will talk about momentarily with Georgia. I mentioned earlier that there's a pretty strong likelihood that the ACC champion will not be ranked in the top 12, not according to the Baller Top 12 poll, though, because right now Georgia Tech is at 11. Oklahoma at 12 is a choice. One thing that I saw echoed throughout the college football ether, especially if you are as online as you and I are, seems like it's hard to rank the top 12.
Agree.
Seems like it's hard once you get outside that top, 8. It gets real difficult. And I think it was maybe Stu Mandel, I don't know who it was, but somebody was online talking about how, amid this world that we live in now, where there's this constant threat of the Big Ten or the SEC or whoever trying to expand the playoff up to 20 teams, it would be a real question of who you would even rank, who you'd even want to put in a 20-team field, given where we're at this year. It feels like we've got a very clear stratification and top 8.
Mm-hmm.
And then beyond that, it's sort of anyone's guess as to who you're putting where.
Agree. Can I ask you a question about numbers 2 and 3?
Yeah. So you're talking about Indiana and Texas A&M.
Is there not a kind of a not easy case, but a clean case to put Texas A&M over Indiana after this past weekend? If we believe in Limber polls. So A&M has a strong, they schedule stronger than non-conference. Indiana has nobody there. A&M has been taking care of business in a way similar. All they do is get coaches fired or play teams with fired coaches, I guess. Texas
Sure.
A&M. They played Mizzou without their starting quarterback, or as we talked about, without their 2 top quarterbacks, but everybody's played Mizzou without Sam Horn this year. And Indiana needs every second and every inch of regulation to beat a Big Ten winless Penn State. Now, there's context to why Penn State is winless, who also is playing without their quarterback, but you kind of are what your record is at a certain point, and Penn State's a team that couldn't quite get over Northwestern and UCLA, right? So no. I wouldn't hate having and rewarding the scheduling of Notre Dame and beating Notre Dame on the road. And now Indiana has arguably a better win beating Oregon on the road, of course. Nobody's arguing against Indiana's excellence. But if we are advocates for a limber poll here, I wouldn't hate A&M at 2. Would you?
I put A&M at 2 in my ballot.
Okay.
I did have A&M at 2, and I struggled with that.
Mm-hmm.
In part because I was doing it at 3:30 a.m. Eastern time after we did our show.
Certainly.
But I wanted to try and vote while the reactions were still fresh. I just feel like A&M, what they have done in the SEC these last couple weeks has been damn impressive.
Yeah.
I mean, they have gone on the road. They mopped up on LSU. LSU might not be what we thought preseason, but that's a tough place to go and win. At night, Tiger Stadium, they got Brian Kelly fired, right? Mizzou, yes, it was with a backup quarterback, but Mizzou is still a pretty good team with a good defense. They put up 38.
They can run and defend, yeah.
Effortlessly against the Mizzou Tigers. Even that win back in week 3 against Notre Dame. Say what you want about week 3 Notre Dame, but Texas A&M needed to win that one in a shootout.
Yeah.
And they did. They put up 41 points. They win by 1. That's a good win. That's looking like a top 10 win. Now, we will see what A&M has the rest of the way. They've got a big one lingering week 14 against Texas. But I think by and large, this is a team to me that feels like they've gotten better. And this is not to say that Indiana hasn't, because the win that they got on the road this week against Penn State, look, we can say whatever we want about Penn State. They've now lost 6 straight.
Yeah.
Clearly, they're in a different spot than we thought preseason as well.
Arguably the best winless power conference team, Penn State.
But Dan.
Yeah.
To come from behind in the manner that they did, 1 minute and 15 seconds, driving the field 80 yards, that incredible touchdown. Some of it in sports is always luck, but that wasn't luck.
But they needed
that
it.
Was just,
they needed
that
it
was
against
just,
a Big Ten winless team.
That was a little bit of luck, but a lot of skill to win in the manner that they did in a hostile setting. So I don't want to take anything away from Indiana, and certainly going to Oregon and getting that win on the road is impressive. But I think if you put me in a situation where I had to pick one over the other, I would favor, and this is how I typically do the polls. Like, I'll just go, do I think A beats C? Do I think C beats D? That type of thing.
I know.
I right now would favor Texas A&M over Indiana on a neutral field if it were me.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if I would. I'd have to think about it and dive in. I just haven't given it as much thought. But I'm just also, Texas A&M hasn't played at Kyle Field in a month. I don't know if you noticed that as some like weird scheduling quirk in this moment. They had a bye week in there, so they were able to sort of recuperate and practice and everything. But that's damn impressive too, playing 3 straight weeks. I mean, it's Arkansas, lame duck, LSU, caused a lame duck situation, and Mizzou without their starting quarterback. But I don't know. I just, right now, if you're just going to say who's number 2, who's number 3, not necessarily who's like definitively better and who you'd wager $1,000 on, I think there's a clean case for A&M at that number 2 spot.
I mean, let's put it this way. If it were Texas A&M against Indiana, and you told me I had to wager $1,000 on one team or another, I would opt not to wager $1,000.
Well, what an unbelievable coaching matchup too, though. Signetti and Elko. Yeah.
I mean, I have a lot of respect for what both these teams have done so far this season.
Yeah.
And so I'm just, this is not me saying it's a clear-cut choice. It was more spur of the moment. I was really impressed by what I saw from both teams this past week. I might give it to A&M by a nose, but I reserve the right to change my opinion because these are 2 really good teams. Really, the top 4 are loaded. And I've got a question for you about that.
Yeah. Okay.
In about 10 minutes, okay?
Okay.
Or maybe 5 minutes.
Yeah.
2 minutes. If you're ready to move on from this, we can start it right now.
Yeah, I mean, is there anything AP poll that you wanted to discuss? We discussed Verballer poll. The only thing I had with the AP poll, which I don't know if it's reflective in the Verballer poll as well, just in terms of change from last week to this week, I'm an unbiased narrator here. Oregon went and beat a top 5 defense on the road in a monsoon and fell a spot, and Ole Miss beat not a Citadel, the Citadel, at home. And they flipped rankings. Oregon dropped a spot after beating a top 20 in the playoff poll team in Iowa, and Ole Miss went up a spot. And I know this is the AP poll and not the playoff poll. The playoff poll comes out, Tuesday night, Wednesday night?
Tuesday night, yeah.
That was a little weird. That's a little flimsy, no?
Well, we saw the same thing go down in the Verballer poll because last week they were flipped. Last week, Oregon was a spot above Ole Miss.
Yeah.
And this week, Ole Miss, is a spot above Oregon.
Yeah, I mean, I understand, like, okay, if Oregon's a top 10 team, they should beat Iowa by more than 2 points. That's fine. That's a reasonable, like, they had opportunities to make it a more comfortable win and weren't able to capitalize.
I mean, Indiana was close. Indiana could have lost to Iowa.
Indiana could have lost. Iowa's a tough team. They're not a complete team, certainly, but they're a tough team, especially at home in inclement weather. But looking at Ole Miss taking care of business against the Citadel, I'm thinking, all right, we've seen enough. All of our questions about Ole Miss against the Citadel have been very cleanly answered. Got to put them above. That was, I don't know. Again, I'm an unbiased narrator. I don't know.
Well, for what it's worth,
or I'm a biased
if
narrator.
you look at the poll points in the AP top 25.
Yeah, it's a hair.
It was 1248 for Ole Miss at 6 and 1245 for Oregon. So it was quite literally one person who opted to put Ole Miss ahead of Oregon. And that's what swung it.
Names.
I don't know. Somebody else could figure that out.
Yeah. Okay.
But that's where we stand. Okay.
Okay.
So look, kind of on the heels of all that.
Congratulations, Skippy. You've got mail.
You've got mail on the Solid Verbal.
So I'm lying a bit when I play that sound, but that's typically what we use for the Q&A segments that we do here on the show. We did not plan accordingly, full disclosure, to get questions from the Verballerhood. We will do that at some point very soon. We owe the people a nice Q&A episode, okay? But instead, what we have in the Q&A realm is questions for one another.
Correct.
3 questions from me to you, 3 questions from you to me. We are trying to really scrape the bottom of the barrel here. We are trying to get all of the crevasses here in this 2025 college football season that maybe we don't otherwise cover.
Yeah.
And yeah, as you know, when we're writing questions, sometimes these tend to tickle the realm of the hypothetical.
Right.
Okay.
Agree.
I teased this a moment ago, but here's my first question for you. The stipulation is this. You cannot pick Ohio State or Indiana. You cannot pick Texas A&M or Alabama. You have, at last count, 132 remaining teams that you should consider your championship pool.
Right.
Of those remaining teams, who would you pick to emerge and be the national champion? Who is the best of the rest?
The best of the non-Ohio State, Indiana, nor A&M or Alabama.
Correct.
I think it's the team ranked right at number 5. I think it's probably Georgia.
You're going Georgia.
I think the defense. Okay, so if you do defense, quarterback, Gunnar Stockton has grown, I think, exponentially throughout this season. I'm still not like crazy in love with their receiving core in terms of like, is there a winter wonder who could get over the top on Ohio State or Indiana or they've played Alabama and it didn't go super well. But of those teams, and then if you lump in coach as well,
right?
I think it's Georgia. There is something about how much they've been tested, not just this season, but over the course of these past 3 or 4 seasons. There's a lot to like about where Oregon is defensively right now. They're playing really well in that secondary. I think they have winner winners there, other than a couple lapses against Iowa. But I think the front is very good. I think the best of Dante Moore and these running backs, they're excellent. We'll see how healthy they get at receiver. I think they're like 1A with Georgia, and I'm not there with Texas Tech because of Baron Morton. Just in terms of like that level, that peak of a mountain. I'm not there with Texas Tech. I'm not there with Notre Dame just because I haven't seen anything since those first couple weeks of the season in terms of being tested against either a top flight defense or I guess USC is a and can be a top flight offense. It was a beat up USC team that week. And I don't think they're like, I think Ole Miss is really good, but I'm not there with Ole Miss. For whatever reason, I just have a block with Ole Miss at this point. So I'd say Georgia and then Oregon, without really a wild card in there, because I don't have that like combination quarterback and defense. Like there is something folk hero-ish about guys like Diego Pavia and Haynes King, but I don't think either one of those guys has the defense to back them up. I don't trust Arch Manning. I think Texas has a championship defense. I don't trust Arch Manning in this offensive line to include them in this conversation. So I guess I'm going Georgia, 1A, Oregon.
I think what makes this season really interesting, especially now as we kind of wind it down and get into the playoff chase and all that stuff. Like before we had the 12-teamer, we had a 4-teamer. Mm-hmm. And you could make a pretty strong case that this would be a really good year for a 4-teamer, maybe just as you could make the case last year. I don't know. But now that we do have 12, I'm very curious to see which of those teams outside of the top 4, either throughout the month of November or through the first round or 2 of the playoff, emerge as the quote-unquote wild card. Because it feels to me that, like, regardless of whatever these teams are seeded when they get into the final 12-team field, there is going to be ample opportunity for one of these teams to emerge in a really significant way and take on that role as wild card. And I don't know who it's going to be right now. Like, we could talk about Georgia. I don't know if Georgia in any context right now in the year of our Lord 2025 could be considered a wild card.
Right.
Maybe in terms of this question. But Georgia's kind of a known quantity under Kirby Smart, But certainly Ole Miss getting into a playoff would be a new thing. Oregon, if they were to go on any kind of run with this team with, not Dylan Gabriel, with a greener quarterback.
Dylan Gabriel's really good, but like one of the things that I think we should mention is when you say wild card, it's not just a wild card like they're getting hot at the right time. It could be a wild card like what Penn State got in terms of playoff seeding last season, right? That
Sure.
Oregon could get, all due respect, Oregon or Georgia or whoever could get USF and Georgia Tech in the first two rounds of the playoff.
That's right. You could absolutely go on a bit of a run based on your path as Penn State did a year ago.
And so then you avoid Bama or you avoid Indiana or you avoid Texas A&M because they lost to somebody in a previous round. Yeah.
That's right. I think that Penn State scenario was far less likely this year just because we're not going to have a Boise party crasher situation, right? But even still.
Well, there is going to be a G6 team. You could get North Texas in the first round at home. Yeah.
They're going to be the number 12 seed in all probability. And in this case, it would be against Georgia. But this is all just to say that somebody will emerge.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know who, but I'm excited to see who that might be.
Agree.
It could even be the G6 team. Who knows? Maybe you're a Byron Brown fan like me,
You could get USF and their secondary that you get to throw on. And you have to tackle Byron Brown, which is like one of the 7 most difficult things you could ask a team to do this season. And you could get an ACC team. You could get an at-large team that just sort of happened to be there and got in. But I would take what's going on and how Georgia seems to be improving and taking care of business. And look, they're a winning as a skill team too. When you look at some of their performances against Florida or against Auburn, where it wasn't pretty for stretches, but they were able to, make fewer mistakes down the stretch and come out with a W. I would just have, I think, more confidence in a team like that than I think Notre Dame has a really interesting ceiling because there is an argument to be made that their defense, it's not an argument, their defense has gotten better over the course of this season, but other than the USC offense, who have they proven that against?
It's totally fair. Totally fair.
Yeah, CJ Carr has answered a ton of questions as the season has gone on, that he looks like he's one of the best dozen or so quarterbacks in the country. So I'm great with Notre Dame as an answer. I just have less to go on in terms of what we have in the bank.
Next question, Dan.
Yes.
Pretend for a moment that you are James Franklin.
Okay.
Right now, your options are Virginia Tech, maybe Arkansas, maybe UCLA. Could be others that emerge. Who knows?
Mm-hmm.
Which school are you choosing and why?
Oh, I would choose Virginia Tech of those 3. Of those 3, I'd choose Virginia Tech. Are you saying any open job?
I'm saying of those 3 in particular.
Okay,
but if you want to
Virginia
extend
Tech.
it out to all the jobs,
Yeah.
where does Virginia? What I'm getting at here is where does Virginia Tech rank on the totem pole?
I think they're atop that 3-teamer. UCLA doesn't fully know what stadium they're going to be playing in for the foreseeable future.
Did I see that they might pay like $80 million to break the Rose Bowl?
They're over the Rose Bowl. And I can't blame them. It's far enough away. The Rose Bowl is a great venue for a huge game. UCLA just happens to not play in huge games basically ever. So it's sort of lost on Bruin football at the moment. They don't have a coach, obviously. There's just a lot of uncertainty. James Franklin would be that coach in this scenario. But I don't know that they're pouring the resources into NIL and portal stuff in a way that they would need to in the Big Ten to make serious noise. And Arkansas just seems like the path is too difficult. That you can figure out how to get that one special season at Arkansas, but in terms of building something where you can consistently hope to win 9.5 games, 10 games, I think the ACC path is better. I think the experience James Franklin has in recruiting there, I think the investment in Blacksburg is significant enough. And I think what's ahead of you in the ACC at the moment is not insurmountable. So I think the answer is Virginia Tech. And if you win 8-9 games a season at Virginia Tech, you got a job for as long as you want.
Now, the wrinkle that I would add to this, and I'm not privy to anything. I saw our friend Josh Pate was talking through a little bit of a rumor about Lincoln Riley. He said, keep your eye on Lincoln Riley.
Saw that.
What that means.
Have heard like very unsubstantiated murmurs about Lincoln Riley's past and future.
There's been some stuff out there.
Yeah.
For sure. James Franklin would hop on one leg out to LA to take that job.
Yeah.
Okay. If they were interested in him, I know he was interested in them at least twice before. to see what he could do if he could get out there.
Yeah.
It didn't work out previously. If that is something that ends up coming to fruition, and again, we know nothing, I would keep my eye on James Franklin for that, trying to get his name in the running there.
James Franklin would work a weekly shift at Chano's, like the taco shack right by USC. I think it's still open, to get that job. Absolutely.
He would walk to LA to take that job.
Yeah.
Here's my final question for you.
Yeah. I the only way I think if Lincoln Riley I don't think it's a USC thing, Lincoln Riley and his future. From what I know, if he's happy in LA, if his family's happy in LA, if he gets along with the administration at USC, he's got a very strong to excellent recruiting class coming in. I think it would be an unhappiness question with Lincoln Riley and / his family in that situation more than a seeing grass being greener elsewhere in terms of a path to a playoff.
Yes.
Yeah.
Final question.
Okay.
Dan Rubenstein, what is the solution for what feels like the worst run of officiating that we have seen in maybe the entire span of time we've been doing this show since 2008?
Right.
It feels like it is horrible this season to an extent that I've never really been one to complain about the officials. You know, everybody tends to get the short end of the stick if you play a full 12-game slate.
Your big problem, your Notre Dame one was it an NC State call that you were like, what is even happening? Yeah.
I mean, don't even listen to me. Listen to Terry McCauley. He went off on his Twitter account about it.
And he loves classic 70s rock.
And hates the bike short.
Yeah.
Thing that we got going on. That's a separate conversation altogether. But officiating's been real bad. Feels like it's getting worse. And so I'm just asking you, as a former official, of course.
Yeah, of course.
What is there a solve for this? Is there any way to make this better, or are we just sort of trapped in referee purgatory?
And by the way, the sidebar here, were you not an umpire? Did I make that up?
I was an umpire back in the day.
So you
not
understand.
on a football field, a baseball field.
But just you understand that community in a way that not many do. Right? As a 12-year-old,
definitely umpiring for 12-year-olds. I did have a situation, okay, where I called somebody out at home plate, and I was definitely taking like proverbial arrows from a coach that I knew whose team had lost on the call, and it was widely seen as the wrong call.
Okay. Do you stand by it?
I don't stand by it at all.
Okay.
I think I may have admitted in the moment, hey, I made a mistake. Like right after it happened, which was definitely not what it took to make the coach feel better about things.
Right.
But I found that I was far too indecisive to be a good umpire.
You were Eastern PA's, God, who was the World Series ump who like gave the terrible was it Levon Hernandez who got like crazy Angel Hernandez?
Yeah, I mean, Levon Hernandez was a pitcher.
No, I know that. He was in that World Series. Didn't he get crazy strikes called? Like way out of the zone?
I remember the Eric Gregg game, if that's what you're talking about.
Oh, Eric Gregg, excuse me.
Yeah, I mean, those pitches were like 4 feet outside.
Right.
He was calling them strikes just to get through the game.
Right. So, yeah, we have some Eric Gregg situations in the college football landscape in 2025.
We do.
Okay. Is it a fixable thing? One, we got to get our guy Gene Steratore on the show to...
Did they ever get back to you? Did CBS ever get back to you?
When I say our guy, I don't know Gene at all, but we just love Gene. Is it a fixable thing? Is it something you can wade through to amend? The only thing I would say is it's a difficult job. It's bang, bang. I would say the older you get, potentially the more difficult it is. You'd like to have sharp eyes, but you'd also like to have experienced eyes. So you got to find the happy medium there. I think the big thing is in these games, and it applies to every sport, right? It applies to referees running up and down a basketball court or calling a baseball game. You got to have like an even showing. Like if you're going to say, we're going to let corners get away with a lot, let it go both ways. Like this is the tenor of this game. We're going to let the corners play. Or if you're going to say like, we're going to be very lax with holds. Great. Be lax with holds both ways. I think that needs to be stressed. I think there has to be an agreement, a tacit agreement, an unspoken, whatever, between a crew that says, okay, this is the tenor of this game. Here's how we're going to let them play. Go. My problem is when you're inconsistent quarter to quarter, drive to drive, and you're calling pitches on the corner, then you're not calling pitches on the corner, right? That there is something about a refereeing crew that is all over the place in terms of how they're calling a game that is infuriating. So I think everybody needs to get on the same page in terms of like what the rhythm of this game should be from a refereeing perspective.
I kind of think that part of the solve is to simplify the rule book.
Okay.
You know, and I just in our lifetime, and I'll use as an example what constitutes a catch or what is a fumble in 2025. You know, did the ground cause the fumble? I have this conversation with Uncle Joe all the time, who calls me up and complains to no end about back in the day, if you fumbled it, you fumbled it.
Right.
Didn't matter if the ground caused it. Didn't matter if a guy ripped it out of your hands when he was down on the ground. A fumble was a fumble.
And to be clear, your Uncle Joe is Joe West, retired legendary Major League Baseball umpire. Yeah,
of course,
yeah.
Of course. And though I don't fully agree with that sentiment, I do think there is a grain of truth there in that the rule book has gotten so complicated. And there are so many like permutations of roughing the quarterback.
Right.
There are so many different variables that need to be considered on every play. No wonder it's such a hard job.
Sure.
Right. If the officiating feels like it's getting worse, it's probably because the rules are getting more sophisticated and it's getting harder to kind of govern the game as it's going on. And yeah, we have replays, and replays has limits as well. The thought that I have had multiple times throughout the course of this year is I wonder if you try to streamline this, if you try to take some of these gray areas out or just make a judgment call one way or the other, if that wouldn't make the job a little bit easier and the officiating feel like it's a little bit better across the board. Again, I umpired 12-year-olds playing Little League Baseball.
Yeah.
I have never umpired anything out there on the field of play in the football.
And you've since been banned.
Since been
Yeah. After that horrible call, even I know about it.
You're just making this up, but yeah, I'll go with that. It'll give me a hard edge. Either way, look.
Yeah.
It's a hard job. I just wonder if there is some simplification in order to, you know, let some of the stuff slide, or as you said, the tacit agreement beforehand to allow some penalties to go uncalled. If you watch the NFL, like I watched the Giants game yesterday, unfortunately. I mean, it's just flag after flag after flag after flag.
Right.
After
Well,
flag.
and that's
some of this stuff is just it's very clear that you could just not call it and it'd be fine, and I don't think anybody would have too much uproar. But
as long as it goes both ways, right?
As long as it goes both ways.
As long as there is a targeting call that goes one way, and then somebody gets hit, an egregious crown of the helmet hit, and it doesn't get called. You're just like, well, what type of game are we looking for here? Because nobody wants a game featuring one team committing 14 penalties and another team committing 12 penalties, right? Nobody wants an arrhythmic game with constant stoppages. I don't think people want games in which penalties are constantly being reviewed by, the league office, the command center in real time all the time. Nobody wants that. So then you're juggling, okay, what are we calling? What are the rules that are important here? What are the rules that are affecting the game? Like, how many times have we seen a play get called back because a left guard was 2.5 feet past the allotted, distance beyond the line of scrimmage? That
the legal man downfield,
right? That happens. That has no effect on the play whatsoever, right? That it's a quarterback scrambling out. The guy doesn't even go downfield, until after the ball is thrown or right before the ball is thrown. And that giant play, that game-changing play is brought back because of an illegal man downfield. It wasn't like a guy getting super far upfield to really sell an RPO that's affecting defensive keys. It's just a guy not knowing that the ball was thrown and started running down to help block, and it's called back. Is that the spirit of a flag that we want in this sport? I would say no. It's a judgment call, and you want to take out judgment calls as much as you can. But does it affect the spirit of this play? Is a defensive end being held as he's going in for a game-changing sack? Call the hold, right? But in a situation like that, where it has no bearing on the outcome of a play, you're just like, it's fine, let it go. I don't know,
man. We could probably do a whole podcast series on the evolution of and current public support for targeting.
Right.
But we won't do that here.
And by the way, you're never going to convince anybody that a game was well refereed, because during a game, everybody watching the game is just all testosterone and just nothing but like guts and id and emotions, and you can't appreciate the nuances of a no call or a great call or whatever. And it's sort of a thankless situation these refs are put in. But yeah, you'd like to see more spirit and more things going both ways, and not having a discussion about them at all.
So look, we have 2 games to preview. We have some under-the-radar games that we need to get to. You did write 3 questions for me. If you want to, we could go through those quickly. Yeah, go ahead.
All right, first question, Ty. I wrote it down, and now I'm searching for it. Okay, first question, Ashanti test. So this is a you thing.
It's about us, it's about us.
Continue.
Of the quarterbacks in the top 12, who do you trust the most, the least, and who has the biggest opportunity to catapult themselves these last few weeks? And by catapult, I mean like become a household national name that isn't necessarily yet.
All right, so I based this on the AP Top 25.
Yes.
No disrespect to our verballerhood, but it's close enough. I probably trust Ty Simpson the most right now.
Okay.
You could definitely make a case for Julian Sayin. You could probably make a case for Fernando Mendoza after what we saw this past week. Marcel Reed has been great this year. There are a lot of really good quarterbacks. That's why these teams are in the top 12 to begin with. But I think every time I watch an Alabama game, it feels to me like Ty Simpson is putting the ball where it needs to be, accurately, on time, and more often than not in the face of a pretty vicious pass rush.
Yep.
So for me, he feels like the guy above all in this field right now. Just, I could change my mind. He feels like the guy that scares me the most. So I would probably go Ty Simpson.
Okay.
The one that I would trust the least right now would be Bear Bachmeier.
Okay.
Up to 400 pounds now. We've been recording for about an hour, so he keeps putting on the weight. I like Bear Bachmeier. I think he's a really talented player. I think the way that he almost fits what BYU does offensively to a T, because he can do so many different things.
Yeah.
But right now, in terms of, who I trust relative to the field here, he's going to be the last one.
Okay. I disagree with that,
gets,
but yeah.
You disagree with that?
Yes.
Who would you trust less than Bear Bachmeier?
I think I would trust both Baron Morton and Arch Manning less at this moment. And I'm willing to even maybe trust Trinidad Chambliss less.
I have Arch Manning as the guy who could catapult himself the most over these next few weeks.
Again, it could be the same person for this answer.
It could be the same person. Arch Manning has a road tilt this week against Georgia, which we're going to talk about momentarily.
Yeah.
If he plays well in that game, clearly that's going to catapult his trust stock, if nothing more. He closes out the year against what appears to be, what should still be, a top 3 Texas A&M team. Rivalry spot in Austin to close out the season. If Arch Manning goes on a really nice run here, these final 3 weeks, he, above all else, I think, has more opportunity to catapult his stock and make himself more trustworthy than any other name on this list. Arch Manning, by the way, it feels to me like Arch Manning, since their bye week has gotten better. It feels like they have improved their passing attack a little bit more, and it just seems like maybe that's clicking. And I say bye week, but what I really mean is the concussion. Okay.
Oh, yes.
And he even joked about that. But since that moment, it feels as if he's playing a little bit more loose, a little bit more accurate, a little bit freer, maybe not looking at the line as much when he's dropping back. I think given the games that he's got in front of him, the answer there is obvious. It's Arch who can catapult himself the most.
So the reason why I would say that I trust Bear Bachmeier a little bit more than, say, Baron Morton, say, Arch Manning. In Arch Manning's case, I just don't trust the line in front of him in these huge games for him to have enough time to grow and shine, with an addendum being, yes, the running game has shown up a little bit more recently, but it's not a huge weapon. I don't know if, I really like Ryan Wingo outside for Arch and for Texas, but it doesn't feel like they have that room in the way that they did last season, led by, I guess, Matthew Golden. And so with the experienced offensive line last season, there was a lot more to trust about Texas on offense. So I don't trust Arch just because I don't think he's going to be given the opportunity to prove himself to be more trustworthy. It's also kind of why I don't trust John Mateer. The Oklahoma line has gotten better. but I don't love this offense week to week in big games. This week will go a long way, right? Oklahoma has Bama.
Yep.
This week will go along. I don't have a lot of trust in that passing offense. So maybe it's passing offense instead of quarterback name. In terms of catapulting, I actually think Marcel Reed. I don't think in terms of his name recognition that he is there with a lot of the quarterbacks in this, top 10, 12, 15, even though he's earned it as
he's been really good this year.
I think if he is able to go to Austin and show out against the Texas defense, that's when you're talking about a true national catapult with Marcel Reed.
All right, give me question number 2.
Question number 2, Tyler. I went to the wrong window for my question. Does schedule matter to you in terms of December/January preparedness? And I will add what Ohio State was able to glean from both the Oregon loss and the Michigan loss last year. And this is a small sample size of one team, 1 year. But in this current era, what Ohio State was able to do in terms of growing for the playoff because of their test during the regular season, does the fact that Ohio State doesn't have that this season. Indiana, I think, is going to finish the season against the Big 12 with a grouping of teams that are like 2-29 in the conference. Like something, again, not their fault, but do you feel a little bit skittish pushing all your chips to the middle of the table when we have some of these teams being seemingly as untested as they look right now? I know that's a very loaded,
No, well, there's
phrasing
almost
it.
like 2 questions in there.
Yeah.
I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is, and I mean, because I've said this forever, a team is not its schedule.
Agree.
I've referred to this over the years as the Boise State test, where you can be the best team in the country and have a terrible strength of schedule.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a tendency to connect the two, that if you have a good schedule, therefore you must be a good team, or vice versa. I tend to think that those things are a little bit more mutually exclusive than they would appear if you read some of the public commentary. There's value in having a good schedule, and I think that's what you're getting to.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of, this team has a crap schedule, therefore they must be crap, or therefore they're completely overrated, I don't always see it that way. I think that's kind of an unfair approach.
Do you prefer teams that you have confidence in have
No,
that
of course
schedule?
I prefer teams I have confidence in. Of course I prefer those teams. And this is where I would say that a schedule is basically a series of experiments week in and week out.
Great way of phrasing it.
And if you are doing an experiment correctly, you are learning something from it. So yeah, playing better defenses, playing tough games on the road, close game situations, having some familiarity with that type of thing absolutely builds confidence and should make you a better team.
Right.
So in terms of ranking teams, if I am looking purely at strength of schedule, I don't think that tells the full picture of how good a team is or isn't. But when it comes to picking teams in the playoffs, that's when I tend to look a little bit more at who's battle tested and who isn't.
Right.
Or that's where I tend to look at, all right, who has this team played? What types of situations have they been in through the course of the season? Did it appear as if they grew from that? I mean, we could use Notre Dame as an example because you brought them up earlier, but Notre Dame got shelled on defense for the first couple weeks of the year. They have gotten better. Now, the competition probably need to grade this on a bit of a curve because it's not playing Texas A&M and Miami every week. But even still, it feels as if there's been real growth there. They've definitely gotten better at quarterback. They've gotten better on offense. They're a lot more explosive than they were at the start of the year as they have figured this thing out. So teams are allowed to grow.
Mm-hmm.
Teams are allowed to adapt and adjust. And absolutely being in those situations is something that I think has real value. But again, a team is not its schedule. So keep things, I think, within limits.
Yeah. The only thing I would add is reinforcing, it's not, a team isn't their schedule, but a team gives itself every advantage when they play those measuring stick games, when they're able to course correct certain aspects of their team based on performances against playoff or playoff-ish or playoff adjacent type teams. Even a team like Ole Miss. Ole Miss, I believe, this season, right? No Texas A&M, no Bama, no Vanderbilt. And it's impossible for any of these teams. Not everybody can play a murderous schedule in these giant conferences. So that's obviously, it should be noted. But yeah, and part of it is, sorry to say it, it's Penn State's fault. that
No.
Penn State isn't a good team for Ohio State and Indiana to measure themselves against. Like, you're just going to have those situations. It's happened in the ACC with teams like Clemson and Florida State not providing some of the better teams in that conference with measuring stick opportunities. And then, LSU and Florida and some of the Auburn, some of the more disappointing teams in the SEC. Not everybody can be a top 15 team, again, these giant conferences. But these teams that have fallen off either unexpectedly or dramatically are affecting schedules and are affecting, we talked about this earlier, our ability to look forward to a top 15 matchup. It just feels like there are less measuring stick games this year. Again, it's your alma mater's fault in Penn State.
I care a lot more about, does it feel as if a team is getting better?
Totally.
And you can quantify that however you want.
Okay.
For some, it's the eye test. For others, there are analytics that you can look at, EPA per play, efficiency, success rates. I mean, the list goes on and on of numbers that you can look at, and maybe in some cases that you prefer one over the other. But that's the thing that I tend to care a little bit more about versus, what's your strength of schedule.
Final question.
You got to watch the games. Yeah, final question.
So, this is an easy transition. What's the best remaining game of the regular season, not including conference championship weekend? And this is just you personally, where you're just like, this is the game where I want to order a special sandwich, clear my schedule, like make sure I've got my special blankie on the couch ready to roll.
Special blankie.
Yeah.
I do have a blankie, by the way.
Exactly
I don't know
right.
if
Of course you do.
Do you have a blankie? I don't call it a blankie, but it's got a nice little fleece lining to it.
So I just bought a new premium one for Jody with an eye. Her birthday just passed, and so that was one of the gifts that I gave to her.
Have you tried the weighted blanket thing yet?
No, but I understand that people really like it. It's like extremely comfortable and calming, right?
Yeah.
But I'm open to suggestions, blanket suggestions. So what is the ultimate schedule carve out for you?
So, I'm pretty excited about Texas, Georgia, which we're going to talk about here in a few minutes.
Mm-hmm.
For me, the answer is Texas A&M.
Okay. In Austin, I think the Friday right after Thanksgiving.
Yeah, man. I am so pumped for that game. I am thrilled for that. I'm thrilled for 3 games that weekend. Texas A&M, Georgia Tech should be fun.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously Ohio State, Michigan. That goes without saying. Those 3 games are just incredible. And there are plenty of other incredible games in Week 14. But the Texas A&M thing, the rivalry coming back to Austin, I don't know what state this game will find Texas in. Like one of the things we'll talk about with this Georgia affair this weekend is the range of possibilities for Texas is vast at this point. If they win against Georgia, a lot is still left to play for. If they lose, a lot of the postseason stuff goes up in smoke, but this could be an opportunity to introduce a little bit of chaos, let's say, into the SEC race, into the playoff field. Okay, so there's a lot that I think could go on just based on the outcome of this Texas A&M game, and a lot of it is dependent on where Texas is at.
Sure.
For me, that's the easy answer. Georgia Tech was fun as hell a year ago, and I don't really have a reason to think that it won't be fun again. Georgia Tech, on defense, maybe that's a separate conversation. Ohio State, Michigan clearly is like its own subcategory.
Right.
When we talk about big regular season affairs. But for me, it's Texas A&M.
Okay. I was between this week's Georgia, Texas, because it's such a terrific measuring stick and it's at the top and it's going to have all sorts of implications. I was between that. I obviously consider Texas A&M, Ohio State, Michigan, those types of games. But I'm going to give you a wild card. And it's purely for potential electricity, potential driving at least one fan base completely out of their mind, having still conference championship implications, and it just looks like it's going to be such an entertaining game. I might get a weighted blanket just to watch Miami Pitt.
Pitt, Miami.
Man.
At Pitt?
It's at Pitt.
Yeah.
Both of these teams have very clear weaknesses. Not clear weakness in terms of Miami. Miami can be very good. They haven't been generating huge plays as much as they probably should be, considering some of the talent on this offense and Carson Beck's experience. Pitt is sort of like an all or nothing team. Both of these schools have, big emotional coaches. There is something about this matchup that in a year that we've lost some of these huge matchups, and this is not a huge matchup, But there is something about this specific game where I was just like, man, this feels like entertainment in a way. Like,
Oh, it'll be an entertaining game.
there's not like
Yeah.
the seriousness of a game with Miami and Pitt. But it's just like, I think I'm going to pay more attention to Miami Pitt this year than I am some like top 15, top 20 matchups, if it's not a top 15, top 20 matchup. I can't wait.
Well, look, as I said before, Miami's probably out of the running for both the ACC and the playoff.
Yeah.
Probably.
Mm-hmm.
They've got games against NC State, against Virginia Tech, and then they close out the year against Pitt.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what state Miami's going to be in
No?
at that point. Like, if they have some of these brain farts, could they lose to NC State? Could they lose to Virginia Tech on the road? Like, if that happens and they take another loss before they get to Pitt, are they going to care about Pitt?
Mm-hmm.
I'm crazy excited for that game, too. And I probably have a bit of a rooting interest because, I was high on Pitt at the start of the year, and it didn't look as if it was going to go in that direction, but, it's kind of boomerang back around now with the new quarterback. So we will talk about that one in due course, but let us know your answer to this question or any of these questions, solidverbal@gmail.com, or hit us up on social media.
The second, third tier end of the last 3-4 weeks of the season matchups that we could have, in terms of, I'll give you another one. I know the show's going on. I apologize.
That's okay. It's our show.
Tennessee Vanderbilt. Is there any chance that that's not a 48-45 game?
No, none.
It's going to be a perfect football experience unless you run a camp for middle linebackers or something. It's going to be perfect. I can't wait for that game. It's going to be amazing. So, yes, some disappointing teams have ruined our ability to have top 10 matchups every week, and that's fine. But there's a lot of meat on this November bone. Excuse me. The Govember : it's Diego's time bone. It's going to be great.
Well, even a game like the Egg Bowl, Ole Miss, Mississippi State.
I hope so, but I'm not positive it will be.
I mean, I'm curious just because I think Mississippi State's going to have a lot to play for.
Yeah.
They want to play spoiler. There's a chance they could play spoiler in that game. We didn't even mention the Iron Bowl. Alabama's in a good spot, but that game tends to be weird.
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily going to take that one to the bank as being a close affair, but yeah, there are a bunch of games. These rivalries that I think we're going to happen upon in Week 14 are incredible. They look amazing.
Oh man, I have so many deep cut wishes and hopes for the last 3-4 weeks of the season. New Mexico's not out of it for the Mountain West. They need some help, and they get San Diego State the last week of the season. It's time for Jason Eck and the boys to get it done. Oh, there's so many.
There's a lot.
Great under the radar possibilities. It's great.
All right, Dan. Let's preview some games.
Okay.
Early bird special.
We have two games that we're going to look at here. As you said, maybe the show's running a little bit long, but whatever.
Okay.
Do whatever we want here. The first one we're going to talk about is at high noon. It's on ABC. It is number 10 Notre Dame. They are now an 11.5-point favorite on the road at the number 24 Pitt Panthers. I will add, just as a important personal note, this game freaks the hell out of me every year.
Sure.
It freaks the hell out of me every year. I have a vivid memory of watching this game from Kate's parents' house. This is shortly after we officially became a couple, and shortly after I met the parents and did that thing.
Ooh.
2011.
Yeah.
Back when we were young and full of life.
Yeah.
That was the 15-12 game that Notre Dame won at Pitt.
Yeah.
Tommy Reese game. He threw for 300 yards. But I just remember being in this very weird mental place where on one hand, I am ready to jump out of my skin. On the other, I am self-aware enough to realize that in this moment, if I want this to go well, I cannot act like a psycho.
Mm-hmm. It's fair.
That was a very interesting push-pull for me. And I still have scar tissue because of it. Notre Dame won that game, but they have lost in the past to Pitt. I see 10.5 on the road at Pitt. That scares me a lot. A lot. I am probably not the most objective voice in this conversation. So why don't you lead us off here? How do you feel about this game?
Pitt coming off a bye. I like that. against the biggest opponent on their schedule, and start of a very difficult stretch for Pitt with Georgia Tech and Miami to finish out the season. So I like that Pitt has rest. I like that was the phrase you're looking for, like vim and vigor, when that's when you were young and spirited in 2011. I think Pitt has some of that with the freshman quarterback. There's a lot inconsistent about Pitt. There's a lot that they could do better, but it's the ACC. You can win games lacking in some areas of your roster.
Sure.
It's a lot of points. I think I like Notre Dame here. I think Notre Dame is good enough to take advantage of flaws, and they've taken care of business in a way that, like, I appreciate when teams are boring strong, and Notre Dame has been boring strong. Like the Boston College game, I guess aside, that was not boring strong. But otherwise,
that was a clunker. Yeah,
that was a clunker. The weather should be fine in Pittsburgh. I looked up my my low pressure systems, and they're fine. I don't love even Pitt playing in a big game at home. I don't love that they don't have a home field advantage. I don't love that, even though they'll get people out for this game. There will be excitement there. It's just not the same if Notre Dame were playing Penn State or Michigan or Ohio State or any. It's just a different environment for a game like this. And so I like Notre Dame here to win this game by a couple touchdowns. My thought was something like 33-20, 35-21. I think it will be competitive back and forth. I think Mason Heinz will make a couple plays that will have Ty questioning whether or not Notre Dame's defense is truly fixed. But
yeah, that happens weekly, by the way.
The problem with Notre Dame is there's enough talent and aggression on this defense to complement a backfield where you can just have Jeremiah Love rush for 88 yards at the drop of a hat, or Jadarian Price just, rip off a 37-yard run where he just has a small lane and he's gone. That has opened things up enough for CJ Carr, who again I think is one of the best dozen quarterbacks or so in the country. I don't know if Notre Dame has winter wonders to compete at the very top of the sport at receiver yet, in the way that they still, I think, need, but they have good receivers. I just don't think they have killers there yet. But I think those good receivers are good enough to get enough against this Pitt defense if they can protect CJ Carr enough, which I'm sure you'll talk about with Pitt's pass rush. I think the fire of Notre Dame on both sides of the ball over 4 quarters will be too much on the road in good weather, 35-21.
Yeah, I mean, look, you bring up Mason Heinschel, and the move to Mason Heinschel has been the type of thing that has prompted a bunch of emails into solidverbal@gmail.com.
Of course.
Anytime you make a move to a freshman, you never know what you're going to get, but this is a guy who was handpicked from Cade Bell, their offensive coordinator. I went through his recruitment. He got offers from 5 MAC schools, Liberty and Coastal Carolina. He ended up going to Pitt. So Pitt making the move to him was very much, I think, a sign of confidence in Cade Bell as much as it was a vote of no confidence in Eli Holstein.
Right.
They have now won their last 5 games. As you said, they were off a week ago, so they're coming off a rest advantage here. This is going to be a test, though, for Mason Heinschel, unlike any I think he has seen so far this season, because this defense is just dramatically better than the others that he's played against. He's going to see a lot of man coverage, about 20% more than average. I am very curious to see what kind of scheme Chris Ash decides to draw up for this one.
Okay.
Because I went through the numbers. Heinschel is way better on the intermediate throws beyond 10 yards and the deeper throws beyond 20. Way better at those than he is at the short stuff. And my theory, and again, this is groundbreaking stuff. You can write this down if you want to, Dan.
Yep.
But my theory is that when he has time to throw downfield, he's really good. But the Pitt line is giving up a lot of pressure, and so I think some of those shorter throws that don't grade out as well are coming under duress. And that's where I think this Notre Dame pass rush is going to play, I think, a leading role. Probably the biggest key to this game.
Yep.
Pitt is mostly a one-dimensional offense. They're not running the ball as well as I thought they might when I did my preseason preview. They're just not. They're a one-dimensional passing team. They are not going to win unless they can get some success through the air, and I think Chris Ash and Notre Dame knows it.
Yeah.
So how they scheme that up, what that looks like, do they try to blitz, do they try to drop back and just make them throw short? I don't know what that scheme looks like, but it feels to me like if you look at the numbers, if you watch Pitt at all this season, it's fairly well telegraphed the type of stuff they're going to do.
Agree.
So I think that's advantage Notre Dame. And the flip side is equally as interesting. How does Pitt try to cover their bases against this Notre Dame offense? Their defense so far this season has gotten a lot of pressure, presumably because they blitz 40% of the time and opponent drops back.
Yep.
But otherwise, it's a very zone-heavy scheme. It is the most zone-heavy defense in all of college football. 85% of the time, they are dropping into some kind of zone. Very stout against the run, which should benefit them well in a game like this.
Agreed.
But I think in order to win, it is some combination of heavy blitzing, disguising your coverage and confusing CJ Carr maybe to force some kind of mistake, and, keying on the run to not be gashed by Jeremiah Love and or Jadarian Price. I think they're good enough to do one of those things. I don't think they're good enough to do all of them.
Right.
And that's sort of where I come down on the Notre Dame side, or why I'm coming down on the Notre Dame side. To me, this looks like a recipe for a big game from Notre Dame's tight end, Eli Raridan.
Okay.
I think Jeremiah Love catching passes out of the backfield is very dangerous. I mean, it's dangerous in general, but it's going to be even more dangerous for Pitt in this game, given the way that they play. I think those are the types of things that end up having a really big impact here. Notre Dame's going to win this game. I'm not laying 11.5 points, though, on the road. I just have far too much scar tissue for that. Something like 31-24 feels about right to me. I don't think the Notre Dame defense is going to hold them down completely. I think Mason Heinschel and Pitt will score. And I think maybe it's a late touchdown. I don't know if it feels 31-24 the full way through, but I have Pitt covering this game.
I think it's a bad move, man. The more I even think about it and hearing you talk about it, Notre Dame's schedule is such where they need to put everything they have into this game, right? So Notre Dame, it's coming off of Navy, which they, just absolutely shocked and awed. I think there's a chance Notre Dame wins this game 52-13.
It's entirely possible.
I think,
and I was texting with our friend Tim Murray from VSiN.
I think they rip them apart the more I think about it.
Before we hit go.
Yeah.
And I think Tim feels similarly, but he's always telling me, follow the point spread. Like, the point spread actually does tell a story, whether you bet or not.
Right.
And I hear you, but there is also the emotional side of me as a fan.
I hear you.
And, we love this sport. We kind of live, breathe, and eat this sport this time of year, the whole year throughout. And I cannot put my emotions on the bench here.
I know it, man. I know it. There is something about like Pitt scripting an amazing first drive, and they're playing with tempo, and they go up 7-0 on a great first drive. And
you can count on that.
You losing your mind,
Yeah.
Notre Dame being patient, and I think Pitt's good, but Pitt has played the dregs of the ACC to sort of turn this season around. With Mason Heinschel, they made the move, but it's Boston College, a poorly coached Florida State team, obviously an underwhelming one. Syracuse with Ricky Collins. NC State has a horrendous defense this year, and Stanford. And so I'm holding nothing against Pitt, but I just think who they've beaten to get to this point does not necessarily represent what they are or are not, other than better than those teams.
7:30 on ABC.
Yeah.
Number 11, Texas on the road at number 5, Georgia. Georgia favored by 6 points. You may recall these teams met twice last year. Georgia got them twice.
Yep.
Beat them once in Austin, and then beat them another time in Atlanta for the SEC championship. I mentioned this earlier as well, but the range of outcomes here for Texas, just in terms of its season, not this game, but the season for Texas, could go a variety of different ways. If they run the table, they're going to end up beating 2 top 5 teams. They're probably playing for the SEC, going to the playoff. If they lose, it's loss number 3. Playoff hopes probably go up in smoke. Who knows what happens the rest of the way. This one is complicated, I think, by the fact that it's a road game.
Yeah.
And when I was trying to go through and
or made easier.
Or made easier, I don't know.
Yeah.
But emotionally, as I was trying to sort my way through this game, Texas has had some difficulty on the road.
I think that's
they had
underselling
the game at Ohio
it. Yeah.
State. The game at Ohio State, which I don't really hold against them.
I mean, they did not look good on offense, investing a ton in this offense. and having
No.
blue chips exclusively on this offense and scored 1 touchdown. It's week 1, though, so you're
But
right.
it was week one. It was week one.
week 1.
But then they lose to Florida
Yeah.
on the road. Florida's since fired its coach.
Mm-hmm.
The Kentucky game was close. That was losable. The Mississippi State game,
Absolutely
that was
losable. Yeah.
You know, those are all one-score games. So I am just curious as we talk about this, how much it factors in for you that this is another road spot for Texas. They haven't been wonderful on the road in some cases against teams that they should have, we would expect, beat a lot more easily.
Yeah, I mean, look, this offense, Arch Manning, whatever you want to say, has improved over the past few weeks, but it also doesn't shine the brightest when the lights are brightest. And that has been on the road. That has been in the SEC. That has been against the best teams and the best defenses that they've placed. It just has not been an offense that has held up its end of the bargain in these cases. And so to go and play Georgia, a Georgia team who has, a big spot a couple weeks ago against Florida, they finished that one out. The offense hasn't looked great and world-beating all season long, but it kind of feels like they're peaking right now, which you'd like against a defense as strong as Texas is. The game is in Athens. Texas has not been able to play its best football on the road at all, which might be even underselling the situation. And I haven't seen anything from this passing game against good teams, especially on the road. Like, I think Vanderbilt's defense is kind of falling apart, and Texas, for whatever reason, their defensive game plan in that game was real screwy in the second half, letting Vandy back in it. I don't think there's a lot to trust about Texas in a big game in this moment. Is there? I like Georgia here. What's the number again?
I got it at 6 right now, yeah.
See, the thing is, picking against the Texas defense and getting that many points is very attractive because the Texas defense can be excellent. But it just hasn't seemed like enough too often this season. So I think Georgia wins this game by 7 to 9 points. So I'm going to give those points. 23-14, 21-14. Like,
Okay, so
I don't
lower
think
scoring.
I think it's
You see
lower
lower
scoring.
scoring.
I don't think Georgia gets to 28. I don't think any winner gets to 28. But yeah, lower scoring here. 24-16, but I think Georgia covers.
Well, let me put it to you this way, okay?
Okay.
I am not going to do my locks on this episode because we're already like an hour 30.
Okay, fair.
And I am still receiving applications from the Verballerhood for my little reverse jinx thing.
Of course.
Okay. But with that being said, this is a game under consideration. And I would say what's really cool about this one, just from a narrative perspective, if Texas wins, it's because Arch Manning has a really good day through the air, because that's where you get Georgia.
I think it's the only way.
I think it's the only way. And Arch winning this game on the road would be like a week of content for us, right? To further the point that I mentioned earlier about catapulting one's trustworthiness,
Mm-hmm.
if Arch goes to Athens and wins, that helps Arch's stock, yeah?
Of course.
I
Well,
think
it helps
we agree on
anybody's
that
stock, yeah.
Anybody's stock. If we zoom in a little bit more, though, what's really interesting is the battle that I think emerges here in the trenches between what I would describe as the movable object and the stoppable force, okay? Texas is 122nd in pressure rate allowed. Georgia is 99th at creating pressure. Whoever wins that is going to win this game.
Right.
Whoever wins that side of it is what this comes down to. Because if they're able to get pressure on Arch, if Arch isn't able to be successful through the air, frankly, Texas has not been that successful on the ground at all this season, let alone the fact that they're going up against a Georgia defense that's pretty good against the run. So they have to throw it here.
Mm-hmm.
And if Georgia can force the issue, speed him up, and prevent him from having time back there to pick him apart, then I think that's the game. So
I agree. I mean, look, to be fair, though, to Georgia, even at their best, this was not a huge, send pressure off the edge defense. It's much more
It
read
isn't.
and
They don't blitz
react
a whole
and
lot.
disguise and just your guys against our guys, and we think we have more talent and we have more playmakers. Like, this has not been like a
No.
ferocious
Listen,
edge rushing
pick their
blitzing
spots.
team. Yeah.
they pick their spots. They pick
Well,
their
it's just
spots. I
not
think
the
it's like-
intention of their defense necessarily.
Yeah, 50th or something, 54th.
Yeah, there
I
you
just
go.
looked at the number before nationally in terms of how often they're blitzing per dropback. So it's not, they're not Pitt,
Right.
right? Pitt does it like a lot, 40% of the time. Georgia's more like 30% of the time, something like that.
I think
It's
a lot of that
lower.
is protecting youth too, right? Not leaving a ton of dudes on islands or with a ton of space. Yeah.
And I guess if we're talking of it in these terms, the Georgia line, if you flip the script a little bit, the Georgia line's way better in pass protection.
Mm-hmm.
I also think the Texas defense is gettable through the air. That should benefit Gunnar Stockton.
Man, that might
I
be
think-
too strong a word. Gettable is good Texas defense. Beat up the Texas defense, but yeah.
But it is gettable through the air.
Okay.
Like if you're going to attack this defense, that's how you attack them,
Okay.
in my opinion. I have a lot more faith in Georgia and Gunnar Stockton than I do Texas. And so I've got this one somewhere around like 30 to 23.
My other wild
Georgia.
card is Mike Bobo.
Is that how we're saying it now?
Mike Bobo.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mike Bobo in a big game against a top defense. Good Mike Bobo sure is fun, but I don't know. You listen to enough Georgia fans who've been through those wars. I don't know. That it's a concern point with me that we could get to the middle of the third quarter and you look internally at your college football brain. You're like, what is he even trying to do right now? What is the point of that?
I've been reading our Discord messages. I think you're not alone in that one.
Right. So that worries me. Even at home, even with what has been a growing defense, even with what has been like, the running game has been sort of hit and miss, but the emergence of Chauncey Bowens, obviously Nate Frazier had a good week last week. There's a lot to really, really like about this Georgia team. But there is one headset in the booth that still makes me think twice about Georgia in a big game. I don't know, but I'm doing it anyway. Yeah, 24-16 Georgia.
Why don't we close out on this front, Dan?
Okay.
So normally we do this on a Thursday. I wanted to do it this week on a Tuesday just to make sure that everybody knew what they were in for.
Okay.
In week 12. 7 under the radar games. I am not doing picks. I am not doing a preview. I am simply telling you why they are under the radar and why you should give a damn.
Yeah. And if you have a cable or television provider, live television provider that allows you to do a quad box with the ESPN family of networks, first of all, congratulations, Fubo subscribers. I've heard of you for a day and a half.
Yeah.
And second of all, how long are we going to have to wait for YouTube TV to get this?
I mean, this is ridiculous.
It's so stupid. Come on, ESPN.
This is
Be cool.
So if you do subscribe to YouTube TV, I don't know if you got the note about this, but they're not giving you the free $20 credit.
They're not? I got an
your
email
account.
about this.
Yeah, but you got to go claim it.
Oh, okay. You have to click a
So
link.
they're leaving the burden to their customers
Great.
to go out there and click on I did it earlier. You
Okay.
just have to click a button and go through it. But they're obviously banking on people not collecting their
course.
$20 credits. So I'm advising all my clients, make sure you check your email.
Claim it. Yeah.
Click on the link and then click to claim the credit to get your free $20. They got to figure this out, man.
Yeah.
I'm tired of this crap.
You can also text Ty for illegal links to these games, right? 610, continue the number.
I have found many an illegal link.
Yeah.
And I will start tweeting those out. I don't really
You
care.
need them sometimes. Yeah.
I'm not being paid by any of these guys. All right. High noon FS1. Arizona at Cincinnati. Cincinnati is favored by 6. This is interesting to me because if Cincinnati wins out, they more than likely play for the Big 12 title. But there is a possible look ahead here with BYU on deck. So just keep this one back corner of your mind.
Okay. Fair enough.
Also, high noon on Fox. Number 21, Michigan, a 10-point favorite on the road at Northwestern. I think Michigan is better. I think Michigan will win going away. But under the radar and kind of cool because they're playing this one at Wrigley Field.
They're playing it at Wrigley. Go get pizza at Zaza's nearby.
Zaza, how do you spell that?
Zazas. They make what I have found to be the only good New York style pizza in Chicago.
Wow.
Other than my
your
own.
own.
Yeah,
Other
my
than
own.
your
Yeah.
own. 12:45 SEC Network. Arkansas on the road at LSU. I have this one at 6.5. I don't know if that changed. I have absolutely no idea what's going to happen in this game.
I'll tell you what's going to happen. Do you want me to tell you? Historically speaking, LSU either wins this game by 35 or 3. So if you like LSU, they're going to cover it easily. If you're not sure if you like LSU, making the quarterback switch last week, you're unsure of a lame duck program taking on another lame duck program, it's going to be a 3-point game either way.
I just think it could be really entertaining.
Yeah. Okay.
Which is why I put it on the list here. 4 o'clock, ESPNU. Watch it however you can. I'll see if I can find an illegal stream. Okay. Memphis at ECU.
Ooh, I like this. Quiet ECU successful year.
Very successful year. ECU is favored by 2.5 points, interestingly.
Yeah.
So the first question is, how does Memphis respond after losing last week to Tulane? The second question is, and it's not more of a question, but it's just more something to put on your radar. It's currently flying under many. There is a possible scenario that would put ECU in the American title game if they win out and if they finish 7-1 in conference.
Okay.
And I say possible because there are still a whole range of possibilities in the American. I don't want to commit to that. But if ECU wins out, if they finish 7-1 in conference, there's a whole series of other tiebreakers and computer rankings that could give them the nod. I don't have access to those computers.
Of course.
I don't know what that looks like. But ECU the Pirates having a really good year. Having a really good year, and they have a shot to get atop the standings. So I'll just leave it there.
This game also could affect how many times you send me a fake story about Ryan Silverfield taking the Arkansas job from a username like D's Jugs 447, but has Ross Dellinger's picture as his picture.
That was so good. And it was definitely a tandem that worked on that.
Yeah, of course.
Because it was Ross Dellinger, and then there was another fake account that looked real that retweeted it.
Mm-hmm.
And so they got like double the boost. They were gaming the algorithm. Everybody fell for it for like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And then it was like, oh, crap.
Didn't look at the username. It literally, it wasn't D's Jugs 447, but it wasn't.
But it
not.
might as well have
Yeah.
been. It might as well.
It wasn't even, they didn't even like try to do like capital I's as the L's in Dellinger. It wasn't even that situation.
No, I was up at Mama H's. We were eating dinner, and I'm like, man, this is going to break my coaching game.
Yeah.
This is going to break the game. What do? I guess I'll just leave it go. I don't know. Fake account. Anyway.
That said,
three more games.
By the way, get to the 3 games. If there happened to be like an incredible newsbreaker anonymously named D's Jugs 447, I would be here for it. Continue.
7 p.m. ESPN 2 if you can watch it. Number 13, Utah, 9-point favorite on the road at Baylor. Utah still in the hunt for the Big 12. They do need some help. Also, this is a spot they could overlook. I don't think it's likely, but it's an offense that can score. Maybe Utah's a bit stuck in the mud. Maybe it doesn't all fire on all cylinders, and Baylor finds a way to get a big lead. Who knows? I'm just saying. Keep that one in the back of your mind.
And this is an actual Big 12 matchup instead of the fake Big 12 matchup.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Correct.
Continue.
7:30 ACC Network if you can watch it. Virginia Tech on the road at Florida State. Florida State favored by 12.5 points. FSU 2 wins away from getting bowl eligible. This is the most winnable game left. I would also add, if you lose to Virginia Tech, then perhaps the Mike Norvell conversation gets kicked up a little bit louder. They have said they're going to do their end-of-season evaluation for Norvell. So I don't expect any kind of mid-season firing. But you lose the Tech here, that could definitely seal a fade or two.
I think they're evaluating the stock portfolios of their biggest donors, not necessarily evaluating the job he's done these past couple seasons.
And last but not least, 7:45 SEC Network, if you can watch.
Yes.
Mississippi State on the road at number 22, Missouri. Missouri, a 6.5-point favorite. We got 2 teams here who got smoked last week. The question for me is, could Mississippi State steal one? If so, they would get to 6 wins, which would be a nice story.
Yeah. Blake Shapen hurt last week. Obviously, that changes his or their season's calculus. It was Kamario Taylor who came in for Mississippi State.
Yes.
Yeah, this one just feels like entertainment to me. Like, I might not watch the first half, and then I see the score, and I'm like, well, this is going up on one of the TVs because this is going to get weird.
I don't know why I said number 22, Missouri. They fell out of the top 25. I guess my document was wrong.
I'll tell you this.
Nonetheless,
not a preview.
Nonetheless, this looks like an interesting game.
Mizzou's running back room is going to need so much oxygen after what they're going to do on the ground, win or lose to Mississippi State.
Why don't we leave it there, Dan? A longer than usual episode, but we had a lot to unpack.
I had a lot of fun. I learned about
Pleasure
pros.
to be here with you as always. Again, hit follow, hit subscribe. If you made it this far, what the hell? I mean, just click the button. It's one button click to make sure that you don't miss any episodes. Most of them aren't this long.
Yeah.
But again, we had a lot to discuss, and it's a pleasure to be here with you.
I know, people are traveling, people are commuting, people are shoveling their walks as it's snowing in early November.
It's the good stuff, man. Take the kids out for a sleigh ride. Make some snowballs. Can you make a snowman yet?
It did come down a good amount, like 5-6 inches last night. So There's snow to pack.
You got 5 inches of snow last night?
It was a lot. Yeah, I'll send you some pictures.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Well, on that pleasant note, thank you, Verballers, for sticking with us. Verballers.com is where you can go to further support what we do. We'll be back on Thursday. We're going to preview some more games. We're going to talk about the college football playoff, the official college football playoff rankings and brackets once they are available. Again, tell your friends, follow us on social media, going out to the website, solidverbal.com, to find all we have to offer or just to learn a little bit more about us.
Yes, agree.
For that guy over there, my good friend Dan Rubenstein, for myself, Ty Hildenbrandt, thank you, as always, for downloading, for listening, for supporting what we do. We will talk to you all again on Thursday. In the meantime, you know the drill. Stay solid.
Peace.